Something that I find that is not discussed very often, but I think is super interesting, is the fact that genuinely no one in this world will see or understand the world in the way that you do. So you could take two people with that experience the exact same thing. Just like say they watch a movie, say they watch like Interstellar, and they both watch it and they have completely different takeaways. Different they have different, like opinions, and even at a fundamental level they might like see the movie differently. And I think that's so fascinating. Another thing that this happened a while ago, but it kind of ties into it, is colors. I think it's incredible how, if you look at a stoplight, we all know what green, yellow, and red are, but is my green the same as your green? So it's like there's no way to emulate the way that other people see the world. And I think this is kind of what causes a kind of like dissonance between people. Is I've been watching like a lot of Dr. K therapy videos lately, and when you get into like couples therapy, it appears to me that both sides have different perspectives about what happened. And the crazy thing is, there is kind of an objective truth of what happened. If you had a third party, then you could probably figure out the truth of what happened. But in both of the people's minds, in both sides, what they believe is true. So it may not necessarily be the truth, but in their mind, it's real. Like in their mind, that's what happened. So like, I think it's crazy how the very intricate different ways that our mind works, the different things we've been exposed to, um, and the different structures and cycles that our minds have built, they all affect the way that we see a scenario. And I think like trying to understand other people's frameworks could reduce a lot of the suffering in the world. Because like a disagreement or kind of like a rift forms between people when you say, oh, this happened, and like, I don't know, you make opinions about it or something, and then someone else challenges that and they say, actually, this happened, or like, this is what I think about it. And those two things can coexist, but the way that ego works, and the way that especially we're kind of like programmed to work in this society, is like validation of like, I am right. But I think if you can take a step back and you can accept the other person's perspective, I think that it grows you as a human being, because you become more flexible and you recognize that there are multiple ways to see every scenario, that other people are different because of the experiences that they've had, and that like your truth, or your, I guess your way of seeing the world isn't the right way. It's the right way in your mind, but that doesn't, there's no objectively right way to live life or to do anything. And I think this just starts with recognizing other humans. If people can take a second, and instead of letting their emotions control what they say or what they do, and just, I got an itchy nose, simply recognize like, hey, I'm this thing with a brain that pops a bunch of thoughts into my head, and makes a bunch of assumptions and judgments, and you're also this thing with the same relative stuff. Like, we are basically the same thing. Like, if we just have that sense of unity, or just like even that little common ground, then that kind of like disarms, I want this person to win in the election and you want the other person, so that means we are enemies. um and I think maybe it's just that people are lacking empathy, or not even empathy but sympathy. Like, you put can't put your self or your mind into that scenario. Like, you can't look at it from the way that they're looking at it, or you can't try to look at it. You're As I said, you're never going to truly be able to, um like, VR headset, go into their brain and understand how they see the world. But if you try to, that typically makes people kind of like light up. Like, if I were to, I think that's why therapy is so valuable. If I went into, or I guess, let me use this. If I had like a really good friend who is like really knowledgeable, maybe they are a therapist, but I'm not like using them as a therapist. If I went to them with my issue, and I I guess that's the reflective. I'll talk about reflective listening after. I went to them and I was like, "Hey, I got cut off today and it made me feel like really angry." If I told them that, and then they were literally just like, "Okay," in their mind, they were like, "If I got cut off, I wouldn't react that same way." But I could see a world where someone gets cut off. This action happens and it causes this negative emotion in this person. And they kind of said that. They're like, "Oh, I can see why that would be frustrating. I understand the emotion that you're feeling. That makes me feel like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, just someone trying to put themselves in my shoes and see a situation in a perspective similar to mine. Like, I don't think words can describe like what that makes me feel. And if you think about that scenario and you kind of like probably think to a time in your past when that happened, I think you'll feel the same thing. And I think if more people strive to do that, and they just kind of, remove themselves again from the emotions, let the emotions rise, acknowledge them, and instead try to, look at every interaction in general from a sense of like compassion and trying to help each other, which is easier said than done because some emotions do get very, very passionate, very visceral when they hit you. But I think the world would be a much better place. And um, I think the last thing is like reflective listening, which is basically when someone explains something to you and you basically just repeat it back, like your understanding of what they said to you. And then like it's almost like proofreading, I guess. So it's kind of like checking that the other person understood, and that like makes the other person feel better, the person that said the thing initially, and it also confirms that there's understanding between the two of you. It's like, I feel like we kind of lost a fundamental way of communicating, or maybe we never learned it in the first place, and that's why like so many relationships, whether they're romantic or just like friend relationships, feel so hollow because like we don't see each other as humans. We don't talk for the sake of talking. Like, when I go into a conversation now, and this is something I have to work on within myself, but when someone just does small talk, when they're just like, "Yo, what's up?" or like it feels like they're saying something for the like formality of saying it rather than being like, on like a truly deep level, like, what are you feeling? Like, I wish there was more of that. I wish there was more just kind of like, what are you thinking about? Or like, genuinely just tell me about your day, like something like that. But yeah, I just think it's fascinating how every single person in the world sees the world in a completely unique way. And like, I guess it's kind of Sonder. It's basically Sonder. Um, I have lived 20 years of all these experiences, and they've like shaped this mind and how it works and my identity and all this stuff. And everybody else has that. Everybody else has that own internal processing system, and it's so cool. And like no one ever talks about it. But one day, one day we'll get there. You know, bro, I'm taking responsibility for my actions. I always end videos in a really awkward way. I don't like the way that I do like outros. I'll just kind of abruptly realize I'm like, I want to stop talking. And then I'll just be like, later. But I want to start actually doing outros. Like, I just, more cohesive. So, I don't know, maybe today, if you get the opportunity to try to like connect with someone on a deeper level, and next time you do go into a disagreement with someone, or you observe a disagreement happening between other people, try to really be productive about it. Try to be like, okay, this is how you see it, this is how I see it. How can we almost meet in the middle? Treat every scenario like couples therapy. I think that would make people a lot more agreeable and happy with each other. But yeah, just try to have more compassion in your life.